Pasos Miranda.
So this gentleman speaks English or Spanish?
Spanish, please. Español.
What's his last name?
It's hyphenated Pasos Miranda.
¿Cuál es tu apellido?
Pasos Miranda.
Pasos Miranda.
Yeah.
So tell me what we're doing with this.
Judge, this is a fugitive case. Mr. Day, I believe, is on Zoom. I am requesting to see if you would consider giving him a bond so he can go turn himself into
para que él se entregue
it's Yedapay County, Arizona.
a Yerpe, el condado de Yerpe en Arizona.
The lawyer is asking for me to set you a bond, Mr. Pasos Miranda. I don't know.
No sé.
I have to look at several things to see whether you would be a good candidate.
A ver si eres buen candidato.
Number one, whether you would actually go back.
¿No?
Number two, are you a danger to our public?
Segundo, eres.
So, Mr. Kim, tell me about Mr. Pasos, please.
Quiero saber sobre el señor Pasos, señor Ken.
Yes, Judge. This is the one from Yavapai County, Arizona,
Es que este es de País County, Arizona.
and he's wanted for charges of fraudulent schemes and artifices.
Por
Wait,
fraude.
fraudulent what?
Schemes and artifices. This is just how it's written.
Schemes and artifices?
Fraudulent conspiracy to commit fraudulent schemes and artifices.
Cometer
Okay.
fraude,
One count of computer tampering,
artificios, parece.
one count of theft,
Una cuenta de alterar computadoras.
and one count of criminal damage.
Uno de daño criminal.
So 4 total counts.
But it's out of the same transaction, Judge,
Casos.
on
Sí,
March 20,
por la misma
2023.
transacción que ocurrió en marzo 20 de 2023.
State would be opposed to a bond.
El Estado no quiere dar, no está de acuerdo con una fianza.
For these charges, it
Para
looks
esta
like
acusación.
he
Parece
messed
que
with fuel
él
pumps at a mini mart.
Estaba haciendo algo con las bombas de petroleras ahí en un minimart,
To include computer tampering,
incluyendo que estabas alterando algo con las computadoras.
but 1 year after he committed these offenses, he
Un año
also was
después que
charged here
cometió este delito, también lo acusaron aquí
for a similar offense of violating motor
Mismo
fuel tax
offense.
requirements.
por violar los requerimientos de impuestos de petróleo y
And-
vehículos.
And briefly before that,
Y antes de
for
eso,
a misdemeanor charge of theft, but again,
un delito
regarding
menor de
fuel.
hurto, pero igualmente era de
He
petróleo.
also has a prior fugitive case, I see.
Tiene un caso antes de
I
fuga.
didn't see that when I pulled it up.
From 10/31/24, I see a prior fugitive case out of the same jurisdiction.
La misma jurisdicción.
Yavapai County.
Llama Pine County.
So he's been before you, is what you're
No,
saying?
it would happen if he was
lo que
a
dice
fugitive and he
que
was
era
apprehended by
fugitivo
another
y
state.
agarró otro estado.
It could have been by this warrant or another warrant,
Pudo haber sido esta orden de arresto o otra.
Oh,
Una
be-
otra
but
arresto.
because it's resolved, that's why it's closed on our end. And I
but let me
can't
ask you
find
this.
it.
Did he know about this in 2024? Because if he did, not give him a bond.
He's saying he didn't know, Judge.
I see state jail. So I see a fugitive case and I see a state jail sentence of 7 months, both on the same time out of work.
Estatal de 7 meses.
So it looks like there
Entonces,
possibly could have been something that he pled to in Wharton County.
se declaró
He got
algo
also
en
hit with
Wharton
fugitive
County.
case.
Y le
Because he
dio un
got
caso
7 month sentence, they
fugitivo y
probably,
recibiste 7 meses.
fugitive case.
No fueron. con el
This is a
caso
lot of,
fugitivo.
we don't really know what happened.
So
Judge.
let's do this. Let's roll it to tomorrow.
I've had him in felony,
Dice
and
que
I
yo
know that he
estado
pled
en el
to
caso
the
de
7 month
felonía.
stay jail.
Sé que
And then
te
he was brought
declaraste
over to Harris County.
culpable.
I don't know if that helps,
Culpable.
but
7 meses
I
en la cárcel.
Represent him on the fuel tax in the 185th?
Pero
Yes.
ahí es donde voy
Oh my
a-
He
goodness.
did.
What are the
That's just
odds?
opportune.
Huh?
That's why I'm like, if,
Just go play the lottery.
so So, if that help, I don't know if that helps, but he was
So-
brought over.
Ella fue
from-
tu abogado, dice.
Sí,
Está hablando.
Did he do 7 months state jail? Because I show a sentence
No,
of
that's
7
still
months.
pending. So they're
No,
going to
dice que
send
se
him,
está pendiente.
Still pending.
todavía.
right.
7 meses de
Yes.
cárcel.
I know.
No,
Sorry.
there is ya terminaste, because when I had him, there was a hold. ¿Ya terminaste con el caso en Wharton County?
Yes.
Okay, because when I had him, he still had a hold. If there is no more
They
hold, that means.
run an
they're sending-
NCIC.
Yes. Tem que how to call it.
No.
I don't show
Go
I don't
watch
show
the-
another hold right now. I mean, there might be a warrant, but it's not attached to a spin that I can see.
It was
Ellos
there
no
when
ven
I had
ninguna
him.
What did he
Judge.
have in Wharton County?
Que tenía
If anything.
other words. Tenía algo.
It would have been a credit card or debit abuse. He was
Pero que
convicted
Uso de tarjeta de crédito. Por de-
on
It's
October
the same
15,
thing over and
2024.
over and over, you know,
It
it's over and over.
Y dice que no lo puede hacer porque es la
They-
misma cosa de
it's-
vuelta y de
It
vuelta.
appears to me that Mr. Pasos Miranda
Sigue
continues to pick up the case
agarrando
over
los
and
mismos
over,
casos.
these fuel tax
Igual,
violations where
igual,
they,
igual,
they allegedly get,
violación de-
you know what I mean?
Sí, pero-
So we've got one in Wharton, we've got one here,
Tenemos
now
una
we've got
en
one
Wharton,
in Yavapai County.
Se llama Pine County.
So is it because of the types of cases he's picking up, or
Not
are we
this
going
one,
back?
but
tipo de
it's- It keeps happening,
Okay.
right?
Sí,
It's
no es por el tipo de caso de que sí
it's over and over and over for the last three plus years.
What I was gonna
Mismo
do,
por
I
tres
thought we
años,
were
sí.
going in a manner where I needed to figure out if he was aware of the warrant or not. But if that's not the case and it doesn't make a difference,
Judge, may I jump in again?
Of
They,
course.
it looks like they lifted the hold
Parece que
on 218.
te quitaron.
If I'm looking on the DA portal,
Dos.
they placed a
18.
hold on him
Porque te
on
pusieron una
October
orden de
31st,
detención el
2024 for that
31 de
sentence for
octubre
7
para
months
la
state jail.
sentencia de
And then
7
they lifted
meses.
that hold
Después lo
on 218.
levantaron en
So he's
12,
done with that
18.
as of
Él ya
218.
terminó con él el
With,
18.
yes,
de
I can show
febrero.
it to you. Well, I don't know if I can.
How?
show- Because he came in on a warrant, so his time would have
Él
ran
vino en
concurrent
una
while he was in
orden
Harris
de
County.
arresto.
and we were
Entonces,
working
Well,
out-
you know what it is? It must have been, you know how on out-of-county cases, they give you the 10-day, right? And if they don't come pick you up, they release the whole within 10 days. That's what. it's
No,
probably-
well, so sorry, Judge. For this one, for the one on February 18th, that's for our 185th violation of motor fuel tax. That one, the release hold was on February 18, 2025. And then that triggered the in-county extradition for likely Wharton County for the out-of-county. That one was released on February 21st, 2025.
La orden esa te la quitaron.
But effectively, both of them, because they're state jail, it would have run concurrent. And at this point, based on when he was taken in, it's likely time served.
which would be taking care of the Wharton County, and Wharton County is no longer in play because of the time he spent.
We don't
in
know
here.
that for sure, though.
We know that, well,
You
yeah.
know, right? So let's do this. Can we roll it to tomorrow and you can try to figure
Yeah,
out?
let
So
me
we have
figure
a
out.
concrete, you know?
Let me get everything in place. I'll roll it, try to get some confirmation on Wharton and figure out if he had knowledge of this case out of there.
I mean, I have a concern if he knows that this is open, because it's been open since 23.
Right.
Él sabe que eso está abierto desde
I have a problem.
I get it.
2023
I'm gonna
que tenía
continue to,
una orden
like,
de-
Okay.
Let him
digamos,
slide when he knows he knows it's open.
y
Let me get all
sabía
this
que
in
estaba
place and
abierto.
we'll reapproach. Okay, let's do that.
Bueno, deja de hablar con él.
Okay, thank you, Judge.
Okay, are you ready?
Well, that wasn't confusing at all.
You know, anytime you get stuff where there's in county versus out of state, it just,
No, it's all.
there's just so many rules that just kind of
And Judge, I'm
clears mud.
No, I know it. I've seen those issues and have dealt with just enough to know I don't enjoy them.
Is our guy on docket today?
No, well, he's on docket, but he's here present in court. He made bond, so that, I guess that gets rid of the issue about having to.
Come on up.
BVR.
Last name again is?
Gomez, and it's Matthew Gomez. You may have a couple on the docket. And did invite us to rehear PC this morning. The case I know is 183 days old. I have talked with the state. They're still trying to work with felony to see if they would approve him to do a mental health PTI, which we thought was appropriate.
Mental health in the case upstairs or
Here.
our case?
Yes.
Are you ready for a PC? Please?
So, Your Honor, I think Our understanding was just reading of it. I didn't know if you want the actual officer here or not.
No. This is just cursory, but I want to know if you're ready for any arguments or whatnot.
The old one.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, we're not addressing the new one whatsoever.
Yeah.
No. That's
Totally got it.
tell me. Go for it. Alex, please.
On August 25th, 2024, the officer was dispatched to a complaint unknown call at Harris County, Texas, with the call slip stating the following. The caller was rambling and refused to answer questions. The caller advised he has warrants for arrest and wants police to pick him up before he does something. The caller states he will be waiting outside the location for police. The caller was irate and upset. The caller was making threats towards police, stating they better be strong because he was going to fight and don't dispatch female officers. The officer arrived on scene and immediately noticed the defendant coming out of his house in an aggressive manner. The defendant took off his shirt and hat and was coming towards the officer quickly and was trying to get the officer to physically fight him. The defendant repeatedly stated he wanted the officer to fight him, and the officers immediately drew their tasers and began giving the defendant verbal commands. The defendant repeatedly refused to comply with the verbal commands and continued telling the officer and his partner to put their tasers away so they could fight him. The officer took the defendant to the ground by tackling him and used force to put the defendant's hands behind his back. The defendant was physically resisting and yelling the entire time. The officer then got the defendant into handcuffs and moved him to the side of the patrol vehicle. The officer's partner held the defendant against the vehicle while the officer conducted a search. The defendant was still refusing to comply with verbal commands and was physically resisting. The officer then assisted the defendant into the patrol vehicle using the minimal amount of force necessary, and the defendant was kicking the officer's legs and still refusing to comply.
Did they find anything? You said they searched, but they didn't find anything?
There's no notes, no finding anything or completing the search, and they only know that they arrested him on the warrants as well as the additional resisting charge.
Warrant did he have?
He had municipal.
I'll give you a second. I'll
Municipal
give you
warrants,
time.
Your Honor.
Just municipal?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Yes, but I think a couple things are, and I know that's the DA's summary of the longer dims. And the longer dims notes reflect that when the officers got to the scene where they had been asked to come out and make an arrest and or been asked to come out and told there's warrants, but they get there and they don't have a chance to confirm anything or find out who he is or any of that stuff. But what's written in their longer dims report, the officers write down, he asked us to put our tasers away and fight him. And so it says in there that the officers made the decision to put their tasers away and go hands-on with him. And so that is.
You're saying, you're telling me that they agreed to fight him?
It's what they wrote.
Can you imagine how much possible trouble they would get if they would agree to something like that?
And I don't think that it's agree to fight him in the sense that, I'm not saying the officers did anything wrong whatsoever. I'm saying when you arrive on the scene and somebody says, I have warrants, we know that's not enough as a legal matter to make an arrest. I could walk up and say, I've got warrants to our deputy. I can't be arrested for that. Maybe he can go back and find out more information, but that's
Sure.
not enough.
I think that's reasonable.
Yes.
Yeah.
But then the conduct is not that he comes up and starts fighting with the officers, but invites them to engage in physical contact. And I give them credit for putting their tasers away like he requested, but they write in there, we did exactly what he said. We put our tasers away and then decided to go hands-on with the suspect. It's 2-on-1.
But I don't think the reasonable interpretation would be that they are agreeing to fight.
Well,
I don't think that that's reasonable because I can't imagine how much trouble they would get in, you know? They'd be fired.
to me, it's not about whether no one over here, and I don't think the state is either, is saying that the officers did anything wrong. I think we're assessing his conduct, and he has the right, as does anybody, it's just First Amendment protected speech, to invite someone to engage in physical conduct. And if they do, that's not him resisting arrest. And I don't really even think that that's the basis of the charge. They can't even arrest him because there's nothing to arrest him for at that moment. If you ran his name and found out the warrants and found out he did have active warrants, you could arrest him, but there's nothing for them to even arrest him for at that moment. And just walking up and saying, hey, I want to fight you, that's not enough to be placed under arrest. But what happens is they get him and get control of him and then start searching him, but pursuant to what? I mean, there's nothing, they still haven't verified him.
No, I think that it's so difficult to be a police officer nowadays, you know?
I understand.
A fine line that you have to walk between because of social media,
Sure.
because of cameras, because of just the way that the public policy and people come down on officers and how they react to situations and how they can get in trouble themselves. That if you see a person who's not acting normal, they're having like a mental health episode. How do you quell that down? Do you tase them? Because we know that we've got situations where officers go rogue and they just start kill them.
No, well, we've seen it too many times. And
it's really, and it sucks. It's sad, but
and I'm not criticizing the officers one bit about that. If it's the case that he tells them, when you get here, I want to fight. And when they get there, he says, I want to fight. And put your tasers up and fight me. And they put their tasers up and decide to go hands-on with him. I respect them for having done it.
I would like to know, because I'm not prepared to rule on this. What I would like to know is, what is the policy of the department when you have a person who's having a mental health episode? How do you handle that? Do you arrest them as like a community caretaking, right? Because in an effort to prevent them from hurting themselves or hurting another person, do you arrest them, right? Or what do you do? Because I don't know. So, because that's what's happening here. We have someone clearly who's having a mental health episode.
And you see why I thought mental health PTI is the appropriate route.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
So, and I don't mind being patient while you think about that, and I go back
I'd like to know what the officer's mindset, number one, at the time of when this episode is happening. Number two, what is the policy when you have this kind of thing happening? What do you do? I don't know. You know,
Sure.
Do you arrest them in an effort to prevent them from hurting themselves? Because who's to say they might have a gun that you don't know about that's stuck right here that they're going to gun? They're just going to start shooting.
Well, but I do think that it doesn't mean that he has done something legally wrong to elicit the words, this is what I'd like to do, and wait. It'd be one thing if he comes and starts attacking them, but to say, put your tasers up and fight me, and they say, taser up. We go hands on. Hands on for what?
I think that was extremely brave of the
Well,
officers.
and I'm-
You know, I give them so much credit because, I mean, who's to say that he doesn't have a gun behind his back and they
Well-
just don't know? And they're trusting him that he's going to act honorably and not take a gun from behind and kill him.
I think it's what they said, Your Honor. They actually used less force than
Yeah,
would have been.
really. God, that was freaking awesome.
Again, this is not criticism whatsoever.
Yeah, I understand.
But
I
the
understand.
question is, what legally did he do wrong in that moment? One, to support a detention. Two, to allow for an arrest. And I don't know that there's enough for that. Or either one of those. It may be enough to, I mean, I don't know if I walked up to our bailiff and said, I have warrants, if that's enough for him to even detain me. I mean, there's just no corroboration whatsoever.
So if you have someone that's coming up to you and threatening to assault you, right? Is that a crime?
Well, yes, but that's not the
There
same.
you go.
Well, no, that's not the same thing, Judge, because I can walk up to somebody and say, hey, would you like to fight? And that's different. That's not threatening
But
to
you
assault
have to take the circumstances into account. There's a totality here. You
Well-
can't just take the statement in and of itself. The person's having a mental health episode.
Sure.
They're irate, right? You don't know what they're capable. You've never met them before. If I know you and you ask me to fight, that's a different question.
Well, but I don't know.
Versus I've never met him.
Turns on.
He's got warrants. He may have a freaking murder warrant out.
Sure. Well, but
They
in
know
order
about
to-
it because it's on the call slip.
well, they know that he said that.
Okay.
They hadn't verified it.
I understand, but it's still there and it's still in their mind. Damn, this guy's, there's a crisis here. How do we avert this crisis from happening?
And I
Right?
respect that portion of it, for sure. But from analyzing whether or not there's probable cause to support the elements of this charge, I think that's where our focus really is at.
There's so many like branches to this thing. I can't possibly rule right now.
No, fair enough. And I appreciate that.
And I think just just from the state's perspective, I know that we wanting a little more information on it. I respect that. I think you have, just looking at the totality of the circumstances here, you have a call slip that says someone is, I think what the exact thing was,
Yes, warrants.
rambling and refusing to answer questions. He's advising he has warrants for his arrest and wants someone to pick him up before he does something. States he's waiting outside. He was irate, making threats towards people. They, at the bare minimum, have someone that could be a danger to themselves or others. They go out, and I know this is somewhat peculiar to say, but he approaches them in an aggressive manner with his shirt off, saying, "Come on and fight me." I would argue at the bare minimum, they have the right to detain him. A, to confirm those warrants, because they can't confirm those warrants without actually speaking to him, getting his ID, that kind of thing. B, then they're just saying, "Come on and fight me," to a uniformed police officer. I know you're not ready.
There's just too much. There's too much.
That's,
Well,
You're incapable of verifying the warrants because of the episode that's happening. So
well, but the actual charge in terms of the elements of this case are that he resisted a search being effected at the end of the fight. And all I saw there with respect to that portion of it was totally conclusory. And so that's where we think the PC falls apart on the element side of just this particular charging issue. And, but I want to again make it abundantly clear that we're not criticizing the officer whatsoever.
I know you. I get, no one is
It is a complicated situation.
taking it in any,
But we did think, and that's why the case has gotten to be 180 days old. I think we're at 182 right now, is because I've been trying to find out more and trying to work to get him approved for the mental health PTI, because that kind of
is now
fits.
what happened upstairs going to throw a wrench in it?
Yes, it has currently. They're going to reapproach felony and see if they'll still allow us to go down that route. But I think it's really the most appropriate route. And I'm not going to go into that case upstairs, but the allegation in that case, and I think legislature's made that a second-degree felony, if I'm not mistaken, assault of a peace officer. But the allegation is that his thumb.
Second degree.
Wow, the legislature made it a second degree now?
Yes, Judge.
Yep. And
Yeah, holy moly.
and I understand.
Wow.
But the allegation upstairs is, and I know there's different components to that whole fact pattern, but the allegation made the basis of the assault is that when they were trying to reposition his handcuffs, his elbow hit the officer's thumb. So it's not.
Oh, I thought here when they were reading it, they were saying like he was kicking and screaming and kind of
On
like.
the older case, Your Honor, he was. On the newer assault case is whenever they tried to put restraints on him, he pulled away and struck the officer's thumb with his elbow. That's for the felony, Your Honor.
It'll be interesting to see if there's body cam to see what the nature of that
Sure.
pull was, right? Because that's ultimately, the case lives and dies on probably that,
But
right?
from my perspective, and I hope that felony is in agreement with this when they learn kind of more about it, and it's a brand new case for them. But when they learn more about it, I hope that everyone agrees that
Sure.
if
I think-
there's mental health issues, then we solve that problem. So this young man isn't back here. And if he gets
We're
resources.
very lucky, my friend. Very lucky. People have died for a lot less. You got to be very careful in today's society. You never know who has a gun. You know what? I have a friend of mine that had a person that was road raging behind him just because he wasn't driving fast enough. The guy comes out, gets a knife and stabs him. Did nothing just because he was driving slow. You never know who you're going to run into these days, man. You run into the wrong person for a lot less, they'll shoot you ass dead. Gotta be careful, man.
And the advice that I've heard you say it in different ways is don't make permanent decisions based on temporary emotions. And
Life's just too short, man. You get one crack at it. Once it's gone, it's gone. All right. I'll do whatever you want to do.
Yes.
I'm not ready to rule in it yet.
Fair enough. But I do think also I was asked to get bond conditions put in place while he's on a new bond. And what I'd like is the same old bond conditions. Don't
What do we have now?
be a new offense, don't consume alcohol or
Just be good. 99% people lose self-control. That's why they're in jail.
Yes, sir.
No self-control. You got to think. If I do this, what's going to happen? If I say this, what's going to happen? You got maybe a nanosecond to think about it. But that's what it's about. That's what makes you mature. Look at all those freaking old guys in there. Never grew up. Never grew up. And they'll never grow. Yeah, I'll stick with the same bond conditions. Just no alcohol, no dope. Don't use, man. You know, is he taking any medication now?
No.
Okay, just be careful, man. Self-control. Got it?
So,
Just stay in touch. All will be good.
Yeah, it's been great contacting me, Judge.
Okay, I believe it. Okay, Mr. Gomez, good luck.
Thank you as always. Thank you, guys.
Morales.
Yo te voy a traducir, ¿ok?
Elcid.
Delcy.
Del sí.
You know what Elcid means?
No, what?
King, the king.
In what language?
Is it Tagalog?
¿Apenas?
Huh.
Mías, David, del sí.
Mr. Delcid Morales,
Del sí.
Morales.
Morales.
on bond for an assault or bodily injury. You've now picked up a terroristic threat
Y también
causing serious bodily injury. You are facing up to 6 months in jail and or a $2,000 fine. Let me express my disappointment with the new case. That really just, you now, because of this,
esto.
have now garnered an ice hold.
Tienes una orden de inmigración.
What happened on the new case, Luis?
Yes, Your Honor. On
Dice,
February
dice el
21st, 2025,
21 de febrero,
officers were dispatched to a disturbance at 14,000 Ella Boulevard,
en el
number
acuerdo,
1608, which is an apartment
es un
complex in
apartamento
Harris County,
aquí en
Texas.
Condado de Harris.
The caller, the
La
complainant, stated that
persona que
3
llamó
Hispanic males were
dice
threatening
que
to
tres
come back with
hispanos
guns
y
and that they are
estaban
still on the
amenazando que
scene.
iban a venir con armas y pistolas y todavía estaban ahí.
The officers arrived and
Los
observed the 3
oficiales
Hispanic males standing
llegaron
at the
y
bottom of
vieron
a
a los
stairwell
tres
leading up to the
hispanos
caller's
sentados
apartment.
ahí en el apartamento.
When they saw the officers, he
Cuando
began to
vieron
walk
los
away.
oficiales, él empezó a caminar.
The officers yelled
irse,
stop and
El
2 out of the
oficial
3
le
men
dijeron
returned.
que te parara.
The third
Dos
male
regresaron, pero el
began,
tercero
continued to walk away and
siguió
disregarded all
caminando,
orders to stop.
alejándose, aunque le dijeron que se detuviera.
The complainant came out
El quejante salió
and she stated that she
y
got
dijo
into a verbal
que
argument
estaba
with a juvenile male and female who were
con un
loitering on the
mujer
stairs
que
leading up to her apartment while she was
sentado
trying to go up those stairs.
en los escalones cuando ella trataba de subir los escalones de ir a su apartamento.
She stated that no threats were made at that
Dijo que
time and she
no
walked
hizo
to her
ninguna
apartment.
amenaza cuando fue a su apartamento.
But when she walked
Pero
to
cuando
her apartment, she saw on
llegó
her
a su
doorbell
apartamento,
security camera
Vio en
that the
la
juvenile male was
seguridad
making gang
cámara
signs and threatening
que
gestures at
estaban
her
haciendo
towards her
muestras de
doorway.
pandillas y muestras así de amenazas ahí en la puerta.
The complainant then came back out and
El-
scolded the juvenile
El
male,
quejante
stating in
salió de
Spanish,
empezando a llamar la atención a
"We are
los
not in your country
muchachos,
anymore and you can't
diciendo
do
que no
anything to me here.
estás en mi
You are a little
país
kid and you need to
y
go
no
home to
puedes
your
hacer
parents."
esto aquí, que tienes que irte a tu casa con tus padres.
The juvenile male stated, "You can't
El
talk to me like
juvenil
that
me
and I'm
dijo,
gonna
no
call my
puedes
brother."
llamarme, hablarme así, voy a llamar a mi hermano.
The defendant, the brother,
El
arrived on
acusado
scene and began
vino
yelling at the complainant,
empezó
telling her to
a
watch how she
gritarle
talks to her brother.
A ella,
So, that's him.
diciéndole
Yes,
que
the brother.
cuidado, que la manera que estaba hablando con
The
mi
complainant
hermano.
responded, "Again, we're not in
Ella
your country
dijo
anymore
que
and
no
you
estás
can't do
en tu
gang stuff
país y
here,
no
so
puedes
leave me
hacer
alone."
cosas de pandilla aquí y déjame en paz.
The defendant then stated, "We'll
El
see about that
acusado
when you
dijo,
hear the
"Vamos a
shots,"
ver,
and made a gun
Y
gesture with his
después,
hand pointing
cuando
at the
oigas los
complainant
tiros y
and
hiciste
began
una
to
muestra
mimic the
como
sound
si
of
ibas a dispararle
gunfire. That was the threat.
con una,
She began,
And
con
that's,
un dedo.
yes.
Y ese
And
fue
then
el señor del
she was fearful for her life and
Ella tenía
retreated
miedo
into the
y
apartment
dijo,
complex.
entró a su
The
apartamento.
officers
oficiales
were able to review both security cameras
Vieron
and video
la cámara de
footage from the, and
seguridad
cell phone footage of the
y
incident.
el otro video del incidente.
Mr. Dell said, I'm going to find that there's enough probable cause to go forward with the case.
Porque
I am ordering you as a condition of your bond not to have any contact with this person in this case and not to be able to possess any weapons.
con este caso, no la hables, no la llames y no tengas en posesión ningún arma o arma de fuego.
You understand?
¿Entendido? Las condiciones.
Normally, what we do when someone picks up a case is that we revoke the bond on the first case.
Caso,
However,
pasar la fianza.
because you have an ICE detainer, I don't know if that's really
I didn't catch the last part, Judge.
Because there's an ICE detainer as it is, I don't know if that's.
I'm gonna try to figure out your situation. I would ask that it not be revoked. That's.
Puede tratar de averiguar la situación de inmigración.
We would ask that it would be, Your Honor. The
I
complainant
mean,
also mentioned that she saw a black hand grip of that which she believed to be a handgun.
she saw him with a gun.
Yes, Your
Ella
Honor.
dice ahora que te
they-
vio con un arma.
On his waistband, she didn't see the entire gun, but she did believe.
She saw a
it
handle?
was a handgun, yes, Your
Dice
Honor.
que vio que tenías un arma metido en.
Judge, I don't think the
en la
revocation is
cinta.
gonna make a difference if there's conditions in place. The conditions will protect the complaining party.
And Mr. Morales,
Bueno, sí,
or
bueno,
Mr. Dell said,
sí.
I don't know if you're gonna get out now.
No sé si vas a poder
Try to
salir.
warn every single person when you come here, be very,
Le digo
very
a todas las
careful
personas,
because when you are not in this country with permission,
cuando estás
you're
aquí sin
very
permiso,
serious consequences,
tienes consecuencias.
as you now see.
Si te arrestan. Y te lo dije.
I'll agree with you. I'll leave the bond as is.
Puedes dejar la fianza como.
However, I don't know what's gonna happen with you now
No sé lo que va a pasar contigo.
because of the immigration detainer, but if you do get out,
ahora, que tengas. Pero si
you will
sales,
have very serious
vas a tener
conditions.
acciones muy
I'm
serias.
going to put a GPS monitor on you,
Ponerte un
and
monitor
I don't want you anywhere near this complaining witness
que vaya
or the complaining witness on your open assault case. You're not to be in possession of any weapons, and I'm going to give you a curfew.
es estar en
Do you understand?
armas
You're
o
not to consume alcohol or illegal drugs. I
solo de
will
droga.
randomly test you.
Voy a hacer muestras de orina.
As it stands now with the ICE detainer, I mean,
Detención.
just, I guess reach out, see what's gonna happen with that.
Él va a averiguar.
Okay,
Podemos hacer.
Thank you, Judge.
Morales, good luck.
Buena suerte.
No, get the conditions in because, you know, they can always make an immigration bond. Wait, if you're going, we need him to sign.